This is the Marvel Legends series, X-Men Marvel's Mystique. I picked up this figure at Hobby Corner. I think it is a Walgreens exclusive figure. Interesting change in the packaging. We're used to the comic art on the sides, but on the back, they didn't do a photoshopped image of the actual action figure. They kept the comic book artwork. Interesting that they've changed that. Okay. So if you're a big fan of the X-Men, you probably know who she is. She is a shapeshifter, one of the more diabolical enemies that the X-Men have faced. And here is Mystique out of packaging, and my goodness, the figure is an absolute disappointment. Let's talk about that later. She comes with several accessories. She has that pistol, which we've always seen her with, like with Madame Hydra, and that old Mystique figure. She also comes with another gun. This is a golden, like Tommy gun, machine gun. And if it looks familiar, first time we got it is one of the weapons of the Chameleon. Incidentally, it's also been repacked in another silverish gray color in the AIM Troop Builder pack, or the Hydra Soldier 2-pack. So, you know, this is really weird for me. I mean, why does Hasbro keep insisting on giving a rifle for Mystique? I'm okay with a gun, with small pistols, but with machine guns? Really? I just don't think that's her thing. I mean, her power, mutant power, is her weapon. Now, she also comes with a rogue head sculpt, which is in midway through phase shifting from her Mystique, her regular blue-faced Mystique face, to Rogue with the golden eyes. And it is the same head sculpt that we've seen with the Marvel Legends Rogue figure. They just repainted it, and yep, it looks to be the same sculpt. They just painted it differently. So I suppose you can pop off the Rogue head and you can just swap it with this one if you wanted this guy's Mystique as Rogues and whatnot. And the last accessory she comes with is a Lilandra head sculpt. Now, I thought this was ingenious. I thought this was great. We get at least a Lilandra head sculpt, which you can mount on any silver painted body, like Silver Sable. The head sculpt is done pretty nicely. Okay, so enough of that. Let's talk about the figure in general. Let's get rid of this pistol. So, let's start with the things I liked about the figure. I love the head sculpt. The head sculpt was absolutely amazing. It was spot on. I think they did a wonderful job with this particular head sculpt. If you're going through several figures on the pegs, knowing it is a Walgreens exclusive, it's going to be several. The biggest quality issue I've seen is her mouth. The white paint that's supposed to be her teeth is sometimes misaligned. Sometimes it's missing some white paint. Sometimes it's overlapping too much on the lips. And secondly, the lipstick paint that they used is a dark red that sometimes overlaps over the blue. Sometimes you get some brush strokes on the upper lip. It's a bit of a nuisance, especially if you're a perfectionist when it comes to paint apps. And then lastly, you have to watch out over the gold, her eyes, the gold paint on her eyes, whether it's bleeding too much into the black. And some minor issues that I've seen in several figures is the silver on the skull. Sometimes it goes onto the forehead, and sometimes the blue paint in general on her forehead, or the plastic color, they put a wash on it. Sometimes there's a little bit too much or too little. Other than that, the head sculpt looks fantastic. She's got this lower tunic, which has the golden skulls, and some of the ones I've seen have way too much white sticking out on the top of the belt. Like there wasn't enough gold paint to cover that, so just look out for that. And the figure has a lot of white paint apps and blue paint apps, and the usual suspects, the usual quality issues are bound to happen. Just find the one that has the smoothest one, but most of them will have that fringed edges between the blue and the white, and it kind of sucks because Hasbro has been years now and they haven't figured out how to do it properly. So yeah. All right, on to my major critique of the figure. The figure looks great on paper. I think when they were doing prototypes of this one, this looked great, but final execution, it's just not doing it for me. And the main reason for that is they had to kit bash several pieces, several different molds, several different parts from previously released Marvel Legends figures. And let's start with the hands. The hands look okay. They seem to be a little bit too muscular for Mystique, but it's the hands that are really bothering me. It's a new sculpt, I think, or either I've not picked up a similar figure with the same hands, but I know what you're trying to get at with this one. They're trying to make it appear like she's wearing some silk gloves, but the way it looks like when they painted it, it feels like she's got grandma hands, like really old hands, old and wrinkly hands, and it's not doing it for me. I would have appreciated a smoother, just a smooth hand mold, and that would have been fine with me. Okay, and the major comment I have with the figure is, I believe they used the torso of Psylocke, and they used the legs of Polaris. And if you've seen my review of Polaris, I did not like that figure. And now for them to kit bash it into Mystique, it feels like she's got a grown woman's upper torso and arms and a teenager's legs. And to me, it's just not working. And I can show you why. Look at this. There is so much glutes and so little hips and thigh. And it's just not proportioned. And look at that. The glutes just are abruptly cut off when the leg starts. I mean, come on, Hasbro. I think they were trying to scrimp with this figure because of the amount of detail they put it. Well, let me tell you something, Hasbro. You didn't have to give this. You could have saved money by not giving a rifle and just giving us the proper leg, the proper thigh, and the proper hip. I mean, why couldn't they have just repainted the Psylocke mold? I mean, look at that. They've gotten the torso already. I mean, they could have used the arms of Psylocke, which would have looked better. And they could have used the legs. The legs would have... Look at that. Look how off that is. I mean, come on. Really, Hasbro? Look how beautiful the Psylocke legs just follow that great silhouette on the back, on the glutes. And while this one on the Mystique, look at that. Am I the only one noticing this? Or they could have used the Rogue mold. I mean, sure, it's a little bit too voluptuous, but I thought maybe that would have been a better choice than this one. I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to make her slender, but perhaps they could have used the Electra mold or the Psylocke mold. They couldn't use the Rogue mold, but not the Polaris mold, because that's one of the more horrible female body molds, the Marvel Legends. And that, to me, was the ultimate deal breaker for this figure. I don't like it. I cannot unsee it. It's just... It bothers me too much, and it's a shame because Mystique was one of those villains that I really like in the X-Men. I hated her in the comic books, but she was just so badass lately, and I thought we're going to get a Mystique figure. That's amazing. We can update our Toy Biz Mystique figure, and Hasbro just dropped the ball on this one. I'm really disappointed. The articulation is going to be relatively similar to most of the previously released Marvel Legends female figures. So I'm not going to discuss it, but that area right there, the legs, I think Hasbro really failed us on this one with this figure. I mean, sure, it would have looked great on paper, but yeah, The paint apps, the head sculpt, I mean, the details on it will give it some brownie points, but the best grade I can give this figure is just a 7 out of 10. A little bit underwhelming to say the least, and a huge disappointment. Unless you are an absolute X-Men fan, you love Mystique, you just need another Mystique figure to complete your X-Men shelf, sure, go and get it. But if you're the casual collector, I'd wait for clearance if you have to get it. I mean, you don't need this one. My advice is let's wait for Hasbro to come up with a updated version of this figure. I'm sure there's somewhere along the line, a couple years from now, they're going to repack this Mystique figure with, let's say, a Brotherhood of Evil Mutants set or whatnot for a convention exclusive, and hopefully they would have changed the legs, but really, really disappointing. So there you go, folks. Hope you've enjoyed this video review. This has been the Marvel Legends series X-Men Marvel's Mystique. Thanks for watching.